Hey, Stats D, please like and subscribe. Please click on the Deck Heroes icon. Click on subscribe. It's 100% free. Blood in, blood out. Also, please click on the notifications just so that you don't miss any amazing content. This particular video is trying to discuss why women are no longer teaching their daughters to be wives, which is an interesting concept in itself. And I will do another video on this. This one's a bit more like an appetizer. It's got its flaws, I'm going to be honest with you. But in any sense, got some food for thought as well. So let's go.
Women not teaching their daughters to be wives,
No. Guess what we're teaching them?
to be independent.
And unfortunately, that's exactly what I'm teaching my child.
But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That shit gotta change.
I know.
Like, that shit
They are supposed to be taught to be wives.
And this
They're
ain't-
supposed to be to the right. Like, you can't just...
For sure, but
Yeah.
no, but see that shit come after. Like, she gonna know, she gonna have discernment now. Like, okay, like you teaching her that, like, hey, this a red flag. Fuck no,
Right.
He already showing you that.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying.
And that's fine to teach them to bring them up as wanting to be wives and teach them how to be wives. Because I was watching this show and this guy was like, what did your parents always teach you? She was like, to be independent.
Yeah.
And it's exactly...
That's what I'm saying. Like, damn, like I want us as a race to do better. That's all I'm saying.
So what do you mean by teach your...
And this is why I'm saying this video is only really like an appetizer. They didn't define what, I mean, I think they will do actually in the next bit. You gotta define what a wife is. You know what I mean? And then another video would also talk about what a husband is. But yeah, if you don't define what a wife is, then how can you say about whether you've met that standard at all, or whether you've got a clue about what we're talking about? Raising people just to be independent in no way is related to being raised to be a wife. It's just being raised to be independent. Just to fill that out a little bit, a wife means you've also got a husband and you've got the unity to become one. But if you're two ones, aka both independent, then you are not even a couple. You're just two people who happen to be cohabiting. Let's go forward.
daughters to be wives? You mean this?
A woman who doesn't understand what her role is not fit to be a wife. Your role is not to challenge your husband.
Right.
Your role is not to compete with your husband.
Right.
Your role is not to be an agitator or a nuisance to your husband because he's doing things you don't like. Your role as a wife is to be a homemaker and a spiritual provisioner. The better you are at your job, the better he is at his job. And his job is to provide, to be a leader, and to protect the trajectory of the relationship.
Okay, let me say this really quick, you guys.
That makes sense.
This is something I want to...
Okay, and let's just think about what he said. I mean, there's a lot of flowery talk. I'm having to kind of second guess, and I don't like I don't like hearing what somebody says and it's got no foundation and no real logic to it, and then filling in the gaps myself, because that's the essence of misinformation. And like 10 people can hear him say the same thing, and because there's no substance to it, you've got 10 different kind of points of view on the same conversation. You know what I mean? He didn't flesh it out in any way. It's just words. No logical structure there or nothing at all. But and he was talking about the woman providing some kind of spiritual thing. Again, it's just like, what does that even mean? What does that mean? Like, take her to church? I don't think that's what he means. I think he just means... Again, here I'm going with that kind of misinformation. I'm kind of giving nonsense some sense. And because I've reached those conclusions myself, it almost makes what he said kind of more than what it was, which was just empty words. I don't think he meant that the religious direction of the household will be dictated or provided by the wife. I don't think that's what he meant. I think he meant just some mystery other thing, which is only in his head, not fleshed out. Let's go on to the next video.
talk about really seriously. So I see a lot of people talk about this, right? And this is what I want to address. We are in a different time now. Back in the day, women could not work at all. So they had to marry a man so they can survive.
They had
And
right.
Yeah, I think they had it right. They
Whoever's
should have kept
idea,
it like
but
this.
yeah.
But anyways, they had to marry a man or whatever the case is just to survive at that point. And so they had traditional roles, which was, I'm not at work all day, so I'm at home, I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm taking care of the children, I'm making sure your lunch is packed, I'm making sure you're good, and I'm here to serve you.
Yeah. I'm not going to teach my daughter to be a wife.
She could have. She was talking about the historical perspective of where women have come from when women were literally property. And I think she's about to get to her point, and the video was cut off for the narrator. We haven't reached the conclusion. Yeah, that's that was then. That's not now. That's not now. That was then. So it's pointless adding it. Well, let's go forwards.
No, I won't. Yeah, to those of you who are new to this channel, I'm a Ghanaian. I'm from Ghana, West Africa, okay? And for somebody who grew up...
Just a second. The only reason why I might post this and I might not, but the only reason I might is because I think it's got like 40,000 subscribers. So people are listening to this, and again, this is the source of misinformation. And every so often when you think about, well, how do people get to there? You know what I mean? Whether that's some kind of toxic mindset or whatever, it's because of channels of misinformation. You know what I mean? So not just this, I'm not trying to flag them up, but this is the example what we're talking about right now, where there's empty assertions to like a negative narrative. That's what produces this kind of, how do you get that? And there's stuff from the men's side as well. I'm going to be flagging them up as well as like women, you know, the women haters that they are, but the men haters as well. There's either the genuine men haters out there. I'm not saying it's her. She did post a video from another woman who was talking for like literally 10 minutes. Didn't have one positive thing to say about men. I think she had an agenda about wanting women not to be with men, if you know what I mean, 100%. But I say, if somebody actually does want to be with men, but they've kind of led themselves to a position where the way they're going to conduct themselves and the kind of whole kind of negative mindset means that's not going to be possible or viable, that's what I want to try and kind of help whoever I can. I mean, my day's going to carry on as normal, and people could live their own lives. I'm really not that bothered. But if my channel can do anything and it can inform, we'll put a spotlight on it, then I'll be happy with that. Anyway, let's go.
Marinated in patriarchy. Like, you were told you have to wake up early, sweep the house, go draw some water, learn to cook and clean. You need to be humble, learn to serve people. You're going to go into somebody else's home, so you need to, tolerate, how to tolerate people, how to not be angry at people, how to not talk back, how to be humble and submissive. When your husband does something wrong, don't raise your voice and fight with him. Be okay with him, maybe hitting you. Be okay with men cheats. They will cheat because that's how they are. And what else? When you do something wrong, when he does something wrong to you, he's a man. It's okay. But when you do something to him, or you do something to offend him, which is in the lines of he's done something and you've reacted, call him in the middle of the night, go on your knees and beg him for forgiveness. Do you think I'm going to teach my daughter to do the same? Who does it benefit? Huh? Your sons? Who is teaching your sons to be husbands? Are you teaching them to be husbands? Are you teaching them to respect women? Are you teaching them not to be entitled?
We're talking about traditional roles. So if we're going to go down that route, which is not going to lead us to anywhere, but if we're going to go down that route, who teaches your sons to go out there and work in the coal mines from the first morning to the last morning, where every breath that he takes in is shortening his life? Who tells these men to go out there and fight in the wars and the trenches, taking these bullets and life-changing injuries or end of life straight away? Who's telling them to do that? Who's telling the men to go on skyscrapers a million miles in the air, and where these are the traditional roles that anybody could do, but it's usually men that do those kind of roles, basically. So who's going to tell them to go up there risking their lives every day? Or instead of trying to play victim as a man or play victim as a woman, how's about we just kind of forget the distractions and we focus on the things that we actually want to meet in the middle? You know what I mean? That we actually do want to be with each other and kind of think and act like it. And that's another thing. I just want to put some positivity in there, just put a spotlight on. Listen, don't let's not do this kind of reductive kind of mindset and these kind of reductive conversations. Just spotlight it for what it is and not get drawn into it.
A woman's labor, her body, and everything that makes her hair. What are you teaching your sons? How are you teaching them to be husbands? I don't normally hear or see videos like teach your sons to be husbands. No, I don't. It's usually teach your daughters to be wives, or modern women this and modern women that. I think I saw a video maybe yesterday or early this morning, and it was of is it Tyrese, and he's talking about modern women are listening to Beyonce, and Jay-Z has Beyonce, and this person has that person, and they are together and they're happy. Most of these women cannot tell you exactly what is happening in their lives, in their marriages, in their relationships, so they do express themselves through music. Okay, they can't tell you that they are unhappy. Look at Cardi B's life. Some of them can't tell you because there's a lot of dotted lines, so they can't say some of the things that they go through in their marriages, so they do express.
I don't know what she's talking about. I think is she trying to say that we should take example from people like Cardi B and other kind of famous rappers out there? Cardi B's an ex-stripper. Why are we taking life lessons? I guess you need to have somebody who's identifiable and known to the audience that you're talking about as an example. But listen, you got to sometimes got to do a little bit more work. What about what's wrong with Michelle Obama? Or somebody of some stature. That's again not an ex-stripper rapper. You know what I mean? I think that's clue number one, red flag number one. I mean that's kind of lead us into the wrong direction. I do want to touch on what she said about kind of men being taught to be husbands, and I've talked about it in my own videos and different videos. I'm happy to touch on that a little bit. It's not this video, but I'm going to touch on it a little bit. We do go wrong in raising men, I think, as well, as much as we go wrong in raising women to be wives. Not raising women to be wives, and raising them to be combative and a bit antagonistic to the concept of actually being in a relationship with a man, you know what I mean, with unreasonable expectations. On the men's side of thing, we raise men to play the field, you know what I mean, and they can, what she said, men can go out there and play in the daytime, the girls may be home helping their mom kind of tidy up and things like that, can't be trusted to go out, and maybe that's a society issue, you know what I mean, and there's, I don't want to go into all that anyway. A safety issue is what I'm saying. Maybe that's what it is, or maybe it's kind of that kind of social conditioning of female roles. But anyway, beyond that kind of free-spirited play that boys have, it goes on, and they can stay out to all hours of the night. What more so than what a girl can do, and very similar to the young girl issue that I said, that maybe that's a societal kind of safety issue. I don't know. I don't have some kind of teenage girl. I don't have a daughter. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And that's a decision not imposed by men, it's imposed by parents. So I don't want to make it seem like a patriarchal thing. What I'm trying to say is, or what I'm kind of leading on to is, maybe we're raising men a little bit too much to play the field. And I don't want to reduce this down to just kind of one issue, like that's the kind of the one thing that needs to be solved and the world is healed. But the one thing I would pick up on, as I said, we're not raising men to be monogamous and look for specific values, in a potential partner. I don't think we have that focus. But I do think if that son or that young man is lucky enough to have a male presence in the household, which is not always the case these days, then he can have a chance to know what to look for in a woman, because a woman's not going to teach a man what to look for in a woman. They never do. Or they don't really understand it. You know what I mean? So as a man, you know what you're looking for in a woman. A woman doesn't know what a man looks for in a woman. Case in point. So anyway, we're talking about what the men do and what the men don't do. As long as that man is self-sufficient as well, in order to be able to look after himself, and then he has that kind of positive ambition that he could also potentially look after himself plus a family, then I think we're getting into those traditional roles. But now we're in 2024. We're talking about modern families as well. So everything that what she said doesn't necessarily apply in the West. She's talking about somewhere in Africa. I think she said, was it Ghana or something like that? I'm not too sure. I'm in London, so the expectations are different. You would expect more generally in this equal society that a woman and a man will more or less be coming from an equal standpoint. The I don't want to get too drawn in. The practicalities of when you have children, though, which is hopefully through marriage, and if it's not through marriage, then obviously there's some issues there. But anyway, so assuming you're in a marriage, somebody is going to be pregnant and not capable of doing full-time work. That would threaten the actual pregnancy itself. They need to be, yeah, they can work. I'm not saying that, you know what I mean? But rest and relaxation will be the thing which is most beneficial to that child. So, you know, beyond all the politics, the practicalities is that if you're pregnant, the main focus at that time is mother and baby to be. So there's going to be practicalities about maybe she can't and maybe she probably shouldn't be working whilst pregnant in a way that's going to stress her. I think we all agree on that, right? Which means that somebody else has to take that on. It's probably going to have to be the man. So from the beginning, we need to be raising those men to be able to provide. At that stage, it's not that you, when you're courting somebody, you're providing for somebody that you're not even going out with or that you don't even know. How does that even make sense? You know what I mean? So the man as provider is, can he provide for you when you're actually in a relationship and you're in a vulnerable position, as in like pregnant, and you're having to support the family? That's being a provider. That's being raised to be a husband. You need to be in a position to do that. But also as a woman, you need to select a man who's capable of doing that. Let's not go any further.
Ourselves through music, and we get it. We get it because the music was for us. It wasn't for you, so you won't understand. When Beyoncé said single ladies put a ring on it, you won't get it because it wasn't for you. It was for us.
She's a young girl. Going to this Beyonce thing now. Obviously, we've gone back down to anyway. So Beyonce was talking and giving advice to ladies that did not even apply to her own life in many songs. So I'm not the biggest Beyonce fan, but there's a well-publicized song in which she was talking about independence. At the same time, I say she was married to Jay-Z, so it was like, what about your own life? But I say you need that kind of little bit of kind of critical reflection on reality in order to kind of appreciate these things. Anyway, let's move on.
Okay, when she did that whole album talking about the cheating and everything, it wasn't for you, it was for us. And we get it. So you won't understand. We understand. And that's the difference between men and women of these days. Okay? So am I going to teach my daughter to be a wife? When she finds a man who has been taught to be a husband, my daughter is a very quick learner. It won't take a day or two. Besides, well, it's not hard to, be a wife. It's not hard.
Well, you haven't defined what it is to be a wife, though, and I don't think you know what it is to be a wife. As I say, that is TBC. That's to be concluded. As I just rewound a little bit, just in case I missed something. If you actually defined what it is to be a wife, other than it's not just doing the sweeping and agreeing if he goes out there cheating and stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe culturally that's what the expectations are from where you're from, and I don't think that applies to most. It doesn't apply to the West anyway. But anyway, let's go on.
And that's the difference between men and women of these days. Okay, so am I going to teach my daughter to be a wife? When she finds a man who has been taught to be a husband, my daughter is a very quick learner. It won't take a day or two. Besides, well, it's not hard to be a wife. It's not hard. It's something very easy. We just switch roles whenever we feel like it. So yeah, it won't take, maybe it will be a day lesson, right? And she'll be all right. But till then, I'm going to teach her to be independent, to have her own, to carry herself well, to be valuable, make something for herself. I'm not going to teach her to be a wife. It doesn't benefit her. It benefits somebody's son, okay, who wasn't taught to be a husband. So yeah, it is what it is. But let's get into some of the stitches and I'll come back and talk some more and leave your opinions in the comments.
She didn't ever really define what a good husband would be then. You know what I mean? If that's a bad example of a wife having to put up with all those things, or a bad model for a wife, sorry. If that's a bad role model for a wife, or, you know what I mean, that they're built to be and it's all kind of not so great. What does a good husband be then? She says she never said it. And I guess we'll never know. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there because it's already quite a long video. I'll think about maybe do the second half of the video. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there anyway because I think it's a long enough video. Please like, subscribe. That is Steve and I'm out.